Then you moved on to Australia, and I believe you did a very famous show down there with a guy called Molly Meldrum, Countdown. And
do you remember that one?
No.
I do believe you did do Countdown.
Well, it's funny.
briefly.
I've been looking on the internet because Countdown it's like Top of the Pops here, big, huge, massive show. Molly is it Meldrum?
Meldrum, yeah.
Yeah, he was famous for wearing his silvery red shirts and all that stuff.
I remember.
Yeah, a nice guy,
I remember.
But he has the biggest pop show, and I think it's still going. It's an institution, this thing.
Yeah.
And on the internet now, you can actually, they've got all the going through the years, all the different ones, and I've been trying to find the one that we did. I think was in '77. So I'm still looking. I haven't found it yet. But we did this show just before we went to. Actually, we went to a place called Great Keppel Island first
on the
Barrier Reef
yeah.
to make a video,
yeah.
which was the video that was going to be shown on, I think, on Countdown or something like
yeah.
that. But Pete's got an interesting story that's, all to do with sunbathing, and how not to do it.
How not to sunbathe.
How not to sunbathe in the hottest place on
Actually, what
earth.
happened, on Great Keppel Island was like 120 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever it was, and we're all on this lovely beach, and there's sun cream. I'm doing his back with the sun cream, doing Kevin's back, doing Les's, and off they all go for a swim. I end up with 3rd-degree burns on my back.
He had a blister on
Like
his
a
back. He had a blister on his back. I swear,
Dreadful.
about that big. I'm surprised he didn't end up in hospital because it was.
Well, actually, the guy from RCA Records, his wife was a nurse, if you remember.
That's right. I think it was Frank.
And it was Frank Peters.
Frank Peters was one of the journalists, I think.
Well, his wife actually looked after me and sorted me back out. So if you're going in the sunshine, wear protection.
No.
Because you only had one gig in Australia, but in fairness, it was a major gig. We were on the steps of the Sydney Opera House, 350,000 people, the Sydney Festival.
New Year's Eve, yeah. They still have that now.
Yeah.
Big fireworks, but it was networked as well over Australia. But the thing is, none of us, or I certainly haven't, I haven't got one photograph. I had Steve or somebody shoot a roll of film for me while we were on stage, and they left the lens cap on.
I can remember seeing one photograph of Peter on stage, and all you can see is this big grin, and that was taken inside on, and he's like,
I haven't got any.
Big grin.
Well, I've not seen
That's
one
the only thing
photograph.
I can remember from that particular gig.
I've not seen
was
one.
That one.
I've not seen one picture of the band. I remember. I think I took a picture of Bonnie Tyler. I think Bonnie was doing it as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't see any. I've not seen one picture of Buster with the Sydney Opera House in the background. If anyone's got one, I'd love to see it.
So if anybody does have any photos of that, I suppose there must be somewhere, because it was the very first Festival of Sydney.
I believe so. Yeah. So I think somebody.
So
So
quite
somebody
prestigious
mentioned
in many ways.
Yeah.
With 350,000 people.
the Opera House in Australia. That's prestigious.
How do you
Incredible.
how do you sort of relate to things? I mean, and let's face it, timeline wise, 3 years previously you're playing Crosville Social Club, Sunnyvale Holiday Camp, and then you're playing to 350,000 people on the steps of Sydney Opera House. It doesn't get much better than that.
Well,
does it?
the Sydney Opera House gig, I don't think we realised, did we, how many people were actually there? Because obviously on the big stage, on the steps with the lighting, etc.
You
And
see
you've got
the
the
first
park.
3-4 rows, don't you?
Exactly, so we didn't really realise how many people were there at the time, but that was an amazing experience.
It was brilliant.
I
It's
guess
a once in a
when
lifetime.
When somebody told you, okay, so it was a case of...
Well, once you were off stage, you could see. I think if we'd have known that before we went on, we would have fainted or something. But the other funny thing, talking about what it was like a couple of years earlier, and the success that we had. I always remember in Liverpool there used to be a great venue called the Stadium, and I went to see Slade, great band, I love them, and I'm just one of thousands of other kids, waiting for my idols. And I remember looking up and seeing Jimmy Lee, and he sort of went like this with his thumb, giving it the old Slade thing, and I was like, oh, he's probably doing it to everybody.
He knows I exist.
And another one of my mates, pinched some glitter out of Dave Hill's hair as he ran past. 2 years later, we're riding high in the German charts. And Slade, who had been massively successful, but they were sort of on the ebb of their career, you know. So we were like the new boys in town. And we're doing this gig with Slade, you know. And all I remember to this day, and I always talk about it, we're sharing a dressing room with Slade, you know. And I'm thinking, you know, we've arrived, you know, we're in the same dressing room
our heroes.
2 years ago, I was just one in 1,000 people, you know. And it was the image, but I'll always take to the grave. I always remember Noddy Holder coming out of the shower or the dressing room or whatever it was, or the toilet even, you know, with nothing on other than his underpants and his silvery mirrored hat, you know. And to me, that is the image, you know.
Incidentally, for the Japanese fans, all the magazines and films that you see Buster on, if you notice my sideburns, they were because of Noddy Holder.
Oh, were they?
Yeah. Because
they
I
were big at the time. It was a popular, fashionable statement to make, having it.
So it had nothing to do with Alvin Stardust then?
No. Well, funnily enough...
But that was big. I mean, we were jealous because we couldn't grow them. You know.
Well, I can remember the gig that you played with Slade, and it was for Bravo magazine, which was a big German magazine, music magazine.
Still is.
And again, was another big stadium. In fact, I've got a photograph, and I will try.
It's an ice rink, wasn't it?
I'll try my best to dig it out, take it to the sound check.
Yeah,
because you set up in front of Slade's gear.
Yeah, but I tell you what, when Slade went on, they were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
you know, I always remember when they went on, it was like, you know, they were just one of the best bands of the 70s by none.
I remember what I remember about Slade is that I'm sure we used the same amps, didn't we? I'm sure we used the same amplifiers as Slade,
backline,
and we were sort of like a little bit of bass, a little bit of treble on the guitar, a little bit of middle, and then blah blah blah. And when Slade went, just prior to Slade going on, their roadie just came up and turned every single knob that was available full, and they sounded brilliant, didn't they?
Yeah, but they were fantastic.
Fantastic band.
But the funny thing is, a few years ago, you said you were looking up to Slade. They were your heroes.
Well, T-Rex.
You're playing with Slade.
We grew up with that, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, Mark Bolan was my main influence to start with. It was definitely Mark Bolan, without a doubt. Yeah. And then Slade were a very close second. But I love the raw sound of Slade. Bolan for me towards 77 got, you know, I like the sort of Electric Warrior style and the earlier stuff. But Slade sort of seemed to go from strength to strength. You know, Mama We're All Crazy Now, and you know all that sort of real hard stuff. I liked all that. I mean, I bought a Fender Telecaster because Noddy Old had one. Yeah, you know, which I still use now. You know.
You came back from your trip to the Far East, very successful. You came back with gold discs, gold awards. You were really psyched up. You had a verbal promise that you were going to go back, and of course a lot of people expected that. Sadly, that never happened. You came back to the UK, and remember, I think you took a couple of weeks off after that, because you worked pretty hard through 77. I think you took a couple of weeks off and started writing material. Which possibly could have been for the third Buster album.
Well, this is the grey area for a lot of people, and as it was for us, because at the end of the tours and everything, you know, we were supposed to be going back to Australia. We were certainly meant to be going back to Japan, and you know, and I think we did go back to Germany briefly to do something, and we did something in East Berlin. And West Berlin. I can't remember what record it was we had out at the time, but anyway, we went back there. I think in 78, but everything in Japan and Germany, it just completely went quiet. Everything went quiet, and we couldn't understand what was going on. And whenever we tried to find out, we sort of it was like a bit of a stone wall, because as Pete said before, we never really knew what the business was happening. But it transpires that I think our management company were having a problem. I don't know what the problem was with the record company.